when my video is doing well, 1,000 views, you know, it's rolling along. We got 35, 50 viewers, and then suddenly the comments shut off. Who does that? How does that happen? How does that work? How do my comments suddenly stop working? And why would that happen? Now, I know that there's a lot of people out there that would take it personally if they were commenting and they were actually trying to like be real in the comments, and I was ignoring them. You know, somebody giving me any sort of compliments or praise or anything like that, agreeing, asking questions, whatever, and I'm just ignoring them. That's going to make you less likely to watch. So who keeps doing it? Who shuts my shit off every time shit gets going really well? How many other, how many other live feeds do you see where that happens? Is that a pretty common thing? I don't watch a lot of live feeds, so I don't know. But I've never heard anybody talking about it. You know, we were learning about Lilith today. And why, and this narrative of like, I'm still want to read it. I still want to know, like, it's Adam's first wife. Let's see what it says in the Hebrew Bible. The word Lilith or Lilith only appears once in the Hebrew Bible in a prophecy regarding the fate of Edom. Most other nouns in the list appear more than once and are thus better documented, with the exception of another hapax legomenon, the word quipos. In reading of scholars and translators, the reading of scholars and translators is often guided by a decision about the complete list of 8 creatures as a whole. Quoting from Isaiah 34, her nobles shall be no more, nor shall kings be proclaimed there. All her princes are gone. Her castles shall be overgrown with thorns, her fortresses with thistles and briars. She shall become an abode for jackals and a haunt for ostriches. Wild cats shall meet with desert beasts. Satyrs shall call one another. There shall the Lilith repose and find for herself a place to rest. There the hoot owl shall nest and lay eggs, hatch them out and gather them in her sorrow. There shall the kites assemble, none shall be missing its mate. Look in the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall be lacking. For the mouth of the Lord has ordered it, and his spirit shall gather them there. It is he who casts the lot for them, and with his hands he marks off their shares of her. They shall possess her forever and dwell there for generation to generation. Kind of sounds like a place. The Dead Sea Scrolls, oh, dun dun dun. Among the 19 fragments of Isaiah found at Qumran, the great Isaiah scroll in 34:14 renders the creature as plural, or Liliat. Oh, well, it's not the same then, is it? Talking about Lilith, pay attention. Eberhard Schrader, 1875, and Moritz Abraham Levy, 1855, suggest that Lilith was a demon of the night, known also by the Jewish exiles in Babylon. Schrader's and Levy's view is therefore partially dependent on the latter dating of Deutero-Isaiah to the 6th century minus 500s? I don't know if that's how that works.
I don't know.
In reverse.
Yeah, no. 4th century? I don't know if it's 4th or 6th.
No, it should be if it's the 6th century, then it would be the 500s, right? If it was the 6th century here, it would be the 500s.
But that's in the positive. In the negative, it might go backwards.
And the presence of Jews in Baghdad in the Neo-Babylonian Empire, which would coincide with the possible references to Lilitu in Babylonian demonology. However, this view is challenged by some modern researchers, such as Judith M. Blair, again, who argues that the context indicates unclean animals. What makes certain people get quoted as the, well, this person doesn't agree. The Greek version, the Septuagint, translates both the reference to Lilith and the word for jackals or wild beasts of the island with the same verse into Greek as ono. Did I say that right?
Onokentoros?
Yeah, before you give yourself a headache. Apparently, assuming them to refer to the same creatures and omitting wildcats and wild beasts of the desert. Under this reading, instead of the wildcats or desert beasts meeting with the jackals or island beasts, the goat or satyr crying to his fellow, and Lilith or screeching owl resting there. It is the goat or satyr, translated as daemonia, demons, and the jackals or island beasts, onocentaurs, meaning onocentaurs. That this time it's spelled with a C instead of, this is a different word, onocentaurs, meeting with each other and crying one to another, and the latter resting there. Jesus. I mean, when you start understanding, like, that's what I mean. When you start actually going and looking into all of it, the idea that it's today, it's like these concrete beliefs or whatever, when you realize it's all based on next to nothing. They found one book, they found a scroll, they found whatever they needed to find, and that just had, so that makes it true. It's not like everybody in the world was talking about it back then, and clearly everybody in the world could communicate with each other back then. They're all building the same buildings, same style buildings, they're all building star forts, they're all, all over the world, everybody's using the same architecture for the most part, unless you're talking about like India and shit, where it's like, again, do you honestly think we did that? Not just we, actually. A much less version of us with shitty tools and, no education and all. They built it. Oh, here we go. ISIS, here comes some programming. Bro, one DMT. Yep, I'm taking DMT. Isn't it funny how the person that identifies as a minister or a ministry can't make any better arguments than that? I'd respect it more if you made it to city council. Wouldn't that be great? They would never let me. Yep, me and my 1-bedroom apartment in the middle of the neighborhood on the second. Yep. The only reason I ever really do that is to just show you guys how desperate and stupid people can be. When somebody's willing to say anything because they can't actually address what's actually being said, and he has no credibility whatsoever. This person will say anything to get attention and to cover up for his own ignorance and stupidity. I mean, it's amazing how desperate people are. And you have to ask, like, who is going to be that desperate? Who wants me to be wrong so bad that that's what they'll do? Instead of learning more and then coming at me with better arguments, they're just desperately trying to come up with something. How does that make sense to everyone? Right? Like, it's just amazing. Now I have screens. I have green screens and LED. I have all this technology available to me. This guy has all the technology to be able to trick you guys into thinking I live in a neighborhood to hide the fact that I live in a one-bedroom apartment. If I had that kind of technology, why wouldn't I just buy a better place than a one-bedroom apartment? If I can afford all that tech, I mean, it's just stupid. It shows you exactly what it takes. And I would be willing to bet you that it's either actual J's behind the program or behind the profile, or the J program, the Team Jorge type program. It's probably not just Team Jorge. Team Jorge is only one. It's literally only one. It's only one Israeli Black Ops group that wasn't even disbanded. They were just exposed. And they showed how Israel absolutely infiltrates the social media sphere to attack people that criticize them. Then you have Barbink, who is the former head of the Israeli cybersecurity apparatus, interviewed by Al Jazeera, where he said that Israel has all of its bots set up to scour the internet looking for people talking about Israel, talking about the Jays. Whether it's good or bad, talking about Palestine, talking about whatever they want it to be set to find. And when they find those pages, he said, quote, they contact Facebook, which I don't know how anybody contacts Facebook, but they seem to be able to. And quote, Facebook usually complies with the request to either take down or shadow ban or whatever the content that Israel doesn't like. This is a guy, last name's Barbink, the former head of the Israeli cybersecurity apparatus. Because I just make up those words. He said it. That they absolutely control social media to try to prevent people like me from reaching as many people as possible. Think about how desperate, and stupid that system has to be. I don't have to make things up. My wife reminded me yesterday, I don't have to take the easy route and take the easy jabs, so to speak, at their appearance and whatnot. I don't need to do that. They know they're ugly. But it's not that. Like I can literally point to, like, if you say, did you know that jays are known to poison drinking water systems, poison wells? The average person's going to say, hey, you can't say that. Come on. That's just a conspiracy theory. So for some reason,
way back then.
Right. Poisoning drinking water sources is something that has followed them forever. But in 1946, 1947, as they're trying to establish Israel, it's called Operation Cast Thy Bread, approved by the prime minister and the higher ups at the time. It was an operation to literally poison drinking water wells. They poisoned the wells in a town called Acre, and then the next day or two, when everybody was sick to bejesus, they came over and took it over. They came and took it over. It's how they first it's the first footing that they have where, they've started to take over. they started the process of creating Israel. It starts with them poisoning drinking water.
Well, it's easy to pull that poison back out of the drinking water, so why not?
I mean, just think about how crazy that is.
That poison has never gone away.
Well, it's diluted, and it's probably,
Well, now it's just added.
it just went through the system.
And all the toxins that we've been adding to it, don't worry about any contradictions between those, like bleach and ammonia. Don't worry about that.
Colonialism. We're not talking about, well, they are colonizing. You are correct.
Hello.
But it's just nuts. And they do it to this day. They are still poisoning the drinking water. Just look up fluoride. I looked into that shit the other day. Water fluoridation. This completely unnecessary thing that 72% of the United States is being subjected to. 5% of the rest of the world fluoridates their water. 72% of Americans are drinking fluoridated water. Fluoride in the toothpaste, all that shit. Yeah, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. And what people don't realize is fluoride is toxic waste byproduct. They had all this fluoride, building up. They couldn't dispose of it anywhere because it was illegal, because it was so toxic. And then they figured out this lie about fucking it makes our teeth better, and they ran with it. Let's see. Fluoride in the water. Water fluoridation. Fluoridation. This is what we talked about the other day, and we were way into it, but let's see if we can't get a little deeper, shall we? Goal. Implementation. Fluoridation does not affect the appearance, taste, or smell of drinking water. It is normally accomplished by adding one of three compounds to water: sodium fluoride, fluoroacetic acid, or sodium fluorosilicate. Sodium fluoride was the first compound used and is the reference standard. It is a white odorless powder or crystal. The crystalline form is preferred if manual handling is used, as it minimizes dust. It is more expensive than other compounds, but is easily handled and is usually used by smaller utility companies. It is toxic in gram quantities by ingestion or inhalation. Grams of it is toxic. Fluoroacetic acid is the most commonly used additive for water fluoridation in the United States. It is an inexpensive liquid byproduct of phosphate fertilizer manufacture. You guys like that? That's the Jays putting that shit in your water. Did you guys have any sort of choice in the matter? Did you get any vote? Are you given that vote every year? They say that fluoride, in the studies that they did, showed that it benefited baby teeth by 36% and permanent teeth by as much as 26%. Think about how, so you want phosphate fertilizer byproduct put in your drinking water because it has a 26% chance of making your teeth better? Do you understand how ridiculous that is? If I told you we're going to go skydiving Your parachute has a 26% chance of opening. How many people would do it? If you were to go on in your car today and drive around, there's a 26% chance you won't get in an accident. Would any of you be okay with that in any other way? Do you realize how fucking stupid that is? And yet you don't care? Like, are you serious? It comes in varying strengths, typically 23 to 25%, because it contains so much water, shipping can be expensive. It is also known as hexafluorosidic, hexafluorosilicate. It's got 4 names. And silicofluoric acid, hydrofluosilic, hexafluosilic. I don't know. Why would it be known by so many different names? InfoWars, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. That controlled opposition bullshit. Alex Jones is controlled opposition. At the end of the day, Alex Jones isn't telling you we need to, get rid of Israel. Alex Jones isn't telling you we need to get rid of the Jays in our country. I'm telling you now. That would be the first thing that I would do as president. First fucking thing I would do as president is outlaw Jayism. If you want to be a Jay, get your ass over to Israel. Good luck with that. We no longer tolerate that supremacy in this country. We no longer tolerate that slavery. It's supremacy. I mean, somebody's going to say, that's anti-Semitic, because you're stupid. Semitic refers to all the people in the region. Black, white, brown, Palestinian, Syrian, even the Egyptians and shit. These are Semitic people. The Jays don't own that one. They like to say they own everything, but they don't own that one. Semitism, on the other hand, is literally policy or predisposition favorable to Jays. Okay? Policy meaning the rules, regulations, laws, all that shit. Predisposition is how you go into it in the first place. If you go into it, your predisposition is how you feel before going into it. So, how you feel going into any situation, along with the laws, are favorable to the Jays. That's what Semitism is. That is supremacy. Right? Dude, advocating for a second Holocaust is nuts. Who said anything about a Holocaust? First of all, there was never one to begin with. It's a fucking fake lie story. But secondly, I never said anything about killing anybody. But you see how desperately stupid these people have to be? They can't argue against my narrative, so they make up their own narrative to argue against. I don't understand. Why wouldn't they want to go to Israel? Isn't that the place for everybody? Isn't that like the motherland and, the Holy Land and basically what the whole cult is based on? So fucking hey, go to Israel. Go live in Israel in your J kingdom, and you guys do the best you can do without any more American support, without relying on the Goyim like you do. Because basically you superior Jays wouldn't exist without us Goyim, without taking all of our money. Because you have the best narrative, it's undebunkable. Well, there you go. That's basically what it is. I am a one of one myself. Thank you. Your religion shouldn't restrict where you live. Yeah, it should. And they don't consider that a religion. I mean, it's a cult. And the reality is, any of them that say, look, I don't want to be a part of this cult anymore. I want to live equally with all of us together. Nobody is God's chosen people, and nobody is a goyim, and nobody is inferior, and we're all just here together. You're more than welcome to be a part of our tribe. But you would think, again, why wouldn't they want to go to Israel? Go live in Israel. You'll be safe, right? Because you're good. No more $3.8 billion a year. No more 18 billion plus since October of 2023. It's got to be like 25 billion by this point. It's a cult. It's not a religion. It's a cult. It's a cult. It's a disgusting cult with disgusting cult rituals. Like, how many of you understand? I don't say these things because they're not true. I wouldn't say things that are so easy to debunk that all you got to do is point the phone out the window and then I'd look stupid, right? They cut and suck on baby penises for circumcision. They eat the placenta. They eat the foreskin. Why any woman would want to be a part of that cult that thinks their vagina is fucking poisonous nastiness. Like, why would you want to do? They think you're disgusting. You have to be purified every month because of your natural bodily fucking functions.
You have to have your fucking vagina inspected by other nasty chicks.
Maybe.
Every month. That's gross.
Maybe it's chicks. But you have to get yourself inspected, and then you have to get in. What's even worse is the fucking mikvah itself.
I mean, it's like going in a pond or a lake. It's all standing water.
No. It's much worse because it's a small little square thing that you get into. That water, who knows how old that nasty water is. That's some nasty water. And it's the most important thing to them. They build the vagina purifier before they even build the temple, wherever they go. And, never mind the fucking genocide they're committing right now. They are literally killing women and children because all of the men have already either been imprisoned or killed themselves. You guys do not have an argument. He's telling you everything you don't want to know. Gee, that sounds about right. Notice how there is no arguments coming back my way. They're just telling me I shouldn't say these things. Nobody's denying what I'm saying. Nobody's debunking what I'm saying. They can't. And it's literally the same tactic that's used in the big picture too. You don't see anybody on the news or anybody, in any sort of government situation where they're arguing these things. And if you do, you don't see any argument coming back towards them other than they're not supposed to say these things. Well, you shouldn't talk about that. You don't know what you're talking about. This goes deeper than you think. It's not worth it. Yep. It's definitely worth it. Oh, Jesus. I don't even care. It's not a censorship thing. It's a human rights issue. What is? Are you saying the rest of us don't have a right to exist without them? And who's saying they don't have a right to exist? Israel is a beautiful place. Israel is like paradise. It's on the water. The temperature is perfect all year round. They have all of the first world technology you can imagine. You subscribed. Nice job, dude. Appreciate it. If you're watching, like, share, and sub. Help out. Take 2 seconds to share this. Hit the share button. Share it on Facebook. Share it with the heading, "This guy's crazy. Come tell him he's crazy." Please, by all means. I don't want you to get in trouble. It's almost like God favored them where he placed them. It's almost like they wrote the book that says the people, the bad guys in the Bible. Remember, the Satan is not the bad guy in the Bible. They are the bad guys in the Bible. They kill your Jesus, your ultimate superhero, and your God's only son, your Christian God's only son, and yet somehow they are your Christian God's favorite chosen people. How that could make sense to anyone other than they wrote the book to keep you stupid, I don't know. Oh, yeah, gosh, that's not what it says. What do you want to happen to the world with the Jays? I want them to all go to Israel and live their life as happily as they can possibly live it, without my tax dollars, without your tax dollars, without any American interference whatsoever. The Bible literally explains the whole thing clearly. You haven't read it yet. That's what it is. We're reading the Bible, actually. I read the Bible every day. And every day I read it, it's worse. You know, it's funny. It's like there are a lot of things where the more you, like, I can't tell you how many times, that song, the lifestyle song, my lifestyle, dip up, dip up, dip lifestyle. I hated that song when I first heard it. But because it was played so much on the radio, eventually it's like, this ain't too bad. That's my jam now. And you would think it would be that same thing. Like every time you would think, especially when it's something like the Bible, you'd think you'd read it and be like, oh, wow, this answers so many questions. This makes so much sense. No. Every time I read the Bible, every time I have a conversation with a Christian, I'm further from Christianity. As dumb as I think it could possibly be, I just look a little bit more and it's even dumber. What's your opinion on us supporting the illegal immigrants? I think you guys are fucking stupid. Everybody that talks about, we need to get rid of these immigrants. The immigrants are overrunning our country. They weren't before Trump got here. Before Trump started pushing that bullshit propaganda, there was no immigrants overriding things and, blah, blah. It's not true. But I hope everybody wants to pay, $10 for a head of lettuce, $25 for some fucking strawberries and shit. I love this notion of the Mexicans came, took our jobs. How many white people are lining up to go pick some strawberries? I wanted to pick the strawberries, but those Mexicans work better and harder for less money than I do. And it's funny too how it's always the Mexicans' fault. It's not the companies that hire them. It's those immigrants like your grandparents who came here to get a better life. Oh, they did it the right way. They were interned in Ellis Island and, injected with a bunch of shit and blah, blah, blah. That makes it okay. Yeah. It's not like you hear anybody in no doctors, no lawyers, no government officials, nothing higher up is like, oh, those Mexicans came and took our jobs. It's always the people on the bottom who have been tricked into believing they belong on the bottom. And it's the Mexicans' fault. The immigration is just like gay rights, right? It's the biggest distraction. It's one of their best distractions. It works really, really well. And it plays off of your pre-programmed American racism. Because you're a racist. If you're an American, you're a pre-programmed racist. And you're going to say, what do you mean? What do you mean? If you think where your parents had sex means you deserve a better quality of life than somebody else, you're a fucking idiot. You're just not thinking, and they've tricked you into being this compassionless piece of shit. Go watch all those videos. I mean, we definitely, it's like all those people that talk about immigration and all this. Where were you when the visa waiver program was being pushed through? They were pushing Israel through the visa waiver program, even though Israel defiantly refused to comply with the necessities to be involved. They refused to comply, said they weren't going to comply. But the United States, 7 days before the false flag October 7th bullshit fake attack, the United States just pushed Israel through. You don't cry about that. Literally. Imagine how much better our country would be with an extra $3.8 billion a year being spent at home as opposed to given to Israel so they can murder people. And really, it's given to Israel so the Israelis can live their lives. You know, the Israelis are given checks just for being Israeli. So they a lot of them don't work unless they want to. They don't pay for the mansion they live in, the compound they live in, because the government gave it to them. October 7th, absolutely 100% fake. I can prove it. It used to be easier for me to prove it because they changed Wikipedia since then. But on November 7th of 2023, it was a month later, I went to the Wikipedia page, the Israel-Hamas War 2023 Wikipedia page, because I just had a feeling. And I went to the edit history, and I clicked all the way back to the very first edit made on the page. I don't know if that's when the page is actually created, or when the first, or just when the first edit is made. But the very first edit on that page, was made at 6:22 a.m. local time, October 7th. Oh yeah. The funny thing is, the completely unknown, unprecedented, unplanned, not false flag attack started at 6:30 a.m. local time, October 7th, 2023. Meaning, the very first edit on the page was made 8 minutes before the actual thing took place. Be safe. Have fun. If you don't think that's... I mean, again, it's like I don't know how many hands I have to hold through this. But if you can accept that as reality, I just don't know what to say. Like, how do you do that? So I ended up reading all of the edits that took place between 6:22 a.m. and around 9:30 or so. I read for about 3 hours worth of event. And what you could see is that there were about 5 or 6 people that had the clearance, because you weren't allowed to edit this page. You had to have X amount of hours, X amount of edits made already on Wikipedia. And then you had to be approved by one group, who would then send you to another group to approve you before you could make any edits on this page. And yet, And so you could see that these 6 people each had like a different job. One's job was to just throw the information on the page. The second person's job was to make all the corrections, the spelling corrections. The third person's job was to like maneuver things around and make it look as pretty as it could be and make it flow the best way it could be. The fourth person's job was to, make any changes to the narrative that had to take place. And you read as they claimed that Hamas launched 5,000 rockets in the first 20 minutes. It all happened so fast, that's why there's no footage of it. In the most heavily surveilled area in the region, there's no footage to back up the claim that 5,000 rockets were launched into Israeli airspace. Which also means somehow Hamas in Palestine, and in the Gaza Strip, where there's a blockade literally around Gaza Strip, an Israeli blockade, they won't even let lumber come in so they can fix their houses and shit. Israel says that lumber could be used against Israel, so lumber is outlawed. Yeah.
I'm stuck and I can't seem to figure out. It's pulling.
What's wrong with you?
Somehow this got stuck in the hole of my thing. I don't know.
What you talking about?
My ring.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know what to do here.
Oh,
there it is. Okay. Have you seen the videos of Hamas and the UN convoys? Yeah, I've seen lots of videos. I know that the majority of the videos that I'm supposed to see are just that. So anyway, let's keep going. This is kind of a part where I have to sort of stay focused, and I can't keep looking down and getting distracted. So they say Hamas launched 5,000 rockets in 20 minutes. That's 4 rockets per second. Somehow, they were able to not only smuggle 5,000 rockets into the area, they also smuggled enough rocket launchers to be able to launch 4 rockets per second for 20 minutes. Do you not understand how insane that is? Right? Just think about that. Does that make sense? Now, of course, when it comes to launching rockets, Palestinians apparently haven't figured out that launching rockets into Israeli airspace means they're going to get shot down because the Iron Dome has a 99.9% effective rate and can analyze the rockets that won't hit anything important, so they'll let those ones go through, but everything else gets shot down. And then by doing so, that gives Israel carte blanche to then respond and commit genocide. You would think at some point Palestinians would start launching rockets into Israel, not trying to hit random targets inside. Just cause any sort of damage you could. But nope. They always seem to shoot them into what... Now, if you were a conspiracy theorist, you'd say Israel is who has the ability to have 5,000 rockets launched in 20 minutes. Israel launches rockets into coordinated airspace so they can be shot down because they want the false flag to be able to commit the whatever plan they have attacking, whatever plan they have to attack, whatever. Because again, when this happened, Israel was responding within minutes. Another thing, they claim that Israel almost immediately, the Israelis killed around 1,500 Hamas inside the Israeli borders. which is basically them just killing Palestinians. They kill Palestinians and then they call them Hamas, and everybody's like, oh, okay, cool. So when the Israelis claim that on October 7th, around 1100, it started with around 1400, and then it dropped down to around 1200, and now it's closer to around 1100. When they say around 1100 is people in Israel, because the Israelis don't refer to themselves as people in Israel. And yet every single news outlet, everything that talked about it, specifically says around or about 1100 people in Israel were killed. Right? So when you know that if it involves Israelis, they would have said 1100 poor, helpless, innocent Israelis or people of Israel. They never refer to themselves as people in Israel. So when they say around 1100 people in Israel are killed or were killed on October 7th, they're not even necessarily lying. They killed around 1,500 Hamas in Israel or just Palestinian people in Israel that day. Just like no hostages were really taken. That's all bullshit. But we'll get to that in a minute. So, one of the greatest smoking guns involved are these claims. Because if you know anything about the Jays and how they work, their funerals override all law, override all procedure, and they believe that the body has to be in the ground within 72 hours of death. Meaning, within the first 3 days, October 8th, 9th, and 10th, there should have been around 1,100 funerals. But there's not. The only proof you have that Israel had 1,100 casualties around is a list of names they give. They just give a list of names, and you're just supposed to believe it. Now let's sidetrack a little bit. How many people have heard of Samantha Woll? W-O-L-L. On October 21st, 2023, 3 weeks after the false flag attack, a J woman, a J community leader here in Detroit, was found stabbed in her front yard. Stabbed multiple times, face and neck. Clearly a crime of passion. And if your wife happens to watch all those stupid NCIS bullshit Criminal Minds shows, you know that when somebody kills with a knife and they stab a bunch of times, that signifies a personal connection. To be able to stab someone over and over again, you really have to have some pent-up feelings towards that person. That's not generally a random killing that involves multiple stabbings. Turns out, a few weeks after this incident, her boyfriend, her J boyfriend, now when this happened, I told my wife, because they were immediately, as they were reporting it, they kept saying, well, we don't know if this has anything to do with the Israel-Hamas thing, but it could, because she's J, and anytime a J dies, it's a hate crime. It has to be an international incident. It has to be, they couldn't just be a J being killed. So when they were first reporting it, I said to my wife, she was stabbed multiple times. It's probably her husband or a boyfriend or something. And when that narrative comes out, the story will completely disappear. We won't hear about how her J boyfriend did this or that or the other. A few weeks later, it's reported that someone has been arrested in connection with this crime. But after some questioning, they were let go, and their identity is withheld from the police. Turns out it was her boyfriend, her J boyfriend, who was already on psych medication, apparently took a double dose of his psych medication that day, hit his weed pen 4 times, and that made him call the police and confess that he thinks he might have killed his girlfriend. He doesn't remember doing it, but he thinks he did. And the guy that was arrested was him. And the identity was all hidden and all that. The J boyfriend. I wish I could go on the Ben Shapiro show more than you fucking know. Months later, they end up arresting a black guy that they said that that had been arrested in the area that night, his name is Michael Jackson Bolanos. And he was out breaking in the cars that night. And the narrative says that he eventually came up across the body dead on the front lawn and was like, oh shit, I ain't being around this dead white girl, and got the fuck out of there. If he would have stabbed her, he would have had blood all over him. He was actually found, like, the way that they say this is, like, this whole narrative is just such bullshit. They say that she has this security system, that she had been in a wedding the night before and gotten home at around 12:30, midnight 12:30, where she came in the house and never actually closed the door. How many of you have ever gone home and not closed your front door? But apparently, I would assume she was so drunk. They leave this all out of everything. She was so drunk from being at the wedding that she didn't close the door. But apparently, the security system inside her house tracks every single movement and everything like that, which is weird. I don't know why anybody would want that fucking security system tracking your every movement. But this guy that was out robbing cars and shit, it's not like he stole anything from her. Her front door was open. He could have went inside. He could have done all kinds of shit. He didn't. He was found, they say that there was a commotion detected in the house at around 4:30, like 4:32. And he was arrested a minute later, maybe 2 minutes later, like 3/4 of a mile away from the house. So there's no movement detected. Suddenly there's movement detected. They say that they think she was killed at that. So he killed her, stabbed her a bunch of times, and then ran a mile, 3/4 of a mile away or something. It's all just bullshit. And it turned out that no matter how much they tried to stick to this guy, and I'm not even doing it justice. Like, the judge was a J judge. They tried to get the judge recused because the judge was doing all this unprecedented shit, interrupting the opening arguments, adding extra charges, the hate crime charges and all this shit. When it comes to prosecution, most of the time, if a prosecutor has a bunch of crimes all associated with like one crime, they won't try to prove anything other than the crimes that they can 100% prove, that they know is like a slam dunk. They don't try to prove crazy shit, added shit, like again, when the judge added a hate crime charge and all this other shit, the prosecution knew they couldn't say it was. How could you prove it was a hate crime just because some J is killed? And the defense tried to get the judge to recuse themselves, but they wouldn't. Now, again, this woman is a J community leader, and this is a J judge in the same community. Are we to think that they didn't know each other? It's fucking stupid, right? They end up giving this guy, they tried to throw the fucking world at him, and they couldn't. They couldn't get anything to stick. So what they got, after all this year fucking long, blah, 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 they gave the motherfucker, they found him guilty of lying to police. And for lying to police, he was given an 18-month to 25-year sentence. 18 months to 25 years. Have you ever heard of such crazy shit? And if that's not all that whole the boyfriend was given immunity so they could testify, he could testify and be questioned about why he called the police on himself and told on himself, and then, you know, he was given immunity. The guy that confessed to doing it was given immunity. And when it was all said and done, again, you got the... So, as crazy as all that is, that's not even the big thing. You're wondering why we're even talking about this. Why did we go in this direction? We were talking about October 7th and how fake it is. That thing happened on October 21st. On October 21st, she was found dead in her front lawn at around 6:30 a.m. Okay? Found dead in an unsolved murder. They didn't know any. She was murdered. Multiple stab wounds, nothing missing from the house. You know, she's found dead. The newspapers from October 22nd, the morning newspapers, right? 24 hours later, the morning newspapers talk about how her funeral was super beautiful and over 1,000 people attended. Just let that sink in. What they're saying is, this person, this victim of an unsolved murder, had her funeral within hours of being found dead, and that over 1,000 people attended it. Now, you might hate me. You might not like what I do. You might hate my face. You might just be some dumb troll looking to troll for nothing. Because, you know, you're a loser. Does someone being found dead, murdered, and having a funeral within hours of said murder make sense to you? I wonder if anybody's actually going to address this. Whatever. You find me intriguing because the truth is sexy. I'm not saying you want to fuck me. You might, but I'm not saying that's what it is. The truth. You know the truth when you hear it. You are a much better barometer for truth than you've been led to believe. And when you're in the presence of truth, it's attractive to you. You could say you hate me all you want, but you're not dumb enough to think that somebody can be found dead at 6:30 in the morning and have a funeral within a few hours. You're not that stupid. I don't care who you are. I don't care what dumb Jesus you believe in or what fucking narratives you fall for. Round earth, submarines. I don't give a fuck. You're not stupid enough to believe that a community leader can be found dead at 6:30 a.m. with an unsolved crime, and somehow her autopsy leapfrogs everyone else's. Are we saying there was no other funerals that day? And that the funeral parlor was just already ready already? and that they had the hole dug, and that all of the people that attended the funeral, they all just happened to live within a few miles. All of the people that were associated with this woman, all over, she's a J community leader. She didn't have a job. She was just one of these leaders who lived a really great life because she was a constant presence in the J community. Which again, the idea of a high-ranking judge in the same community not knowing a community leader, that's stupid. But this woman was an important figure, and somehow, a proper investigation, proper autopsy, proper all that wasn't important. What was important was getting her buried in the ground within a few hours of being found dead. Are you really that dumb? Like, I get it, right? You're half J. Damn, that sucks. Sorry about that. What does that even mean? Like, if I said I was half Italian, you'd be like, okay, so your family's from Italy. When you say you're half J, nobody says I'm half Christian. Oh, I'm half Muslim and half Italian. Nobody says that. Isn't it funny how I'm Muslims have a funeral before midnight on the same day? Not true. Not here in the United States. You have to have an investigation into the murder. Her being J isn't going to override any of that. Well, it does. But it just, and again, the logistics of it. 1,000 people just dropped what they were doing. She didn't have any relatives from far away that might, relative from Chicago, anything like that, nothing. Within hours. Another story. Early in 2023, supposedly, so let me actually deviate here, because what I'm telling you is that the Jays and Israel will flat out lie to you. They will literally create narratives. And a great example of that, and the thing is, everything I'm saying, I highly encourage you to go Google and double check and see if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, by all means, people, let me know. Make me look bad in front of the whole people, in front of the community here. Make me look bad. Back during COVID, there was a guy called Hai, H-A-I, which is a biblical name. I just learned that. Hai Shaloin, S-H-A-U-L, S-H-A, Shaloin, L, S-H-A-U-L, oh, God damn it, I have, Shaloin, S-H-A-U-L-I-O-N, or, fuck, I can't remember it now. Hai Shaloin was said to be the #1 protester in Israel. He was said to be the #1 anti-mask, anti-vax protester in all of Israel. And the story was that he was at a no-mask rally, meaning he was surrounded by a bunch of other people not wearing a mask, all chanting, yeah, no more masks, shit like that, right? Should we break again here? Let's take another little break. We'll come back to it. But I just want to talk about what all of you believe real quick, right? All of you believe that one day somebody's just walking around when suddenly flu manifests inside of them, COVID manifests inside of them. They become patient zero. And as these germs in their body spread throughout their body. Remember, when Trump lost the debate to Biden the first time, it was on a Wednesday. By Friday, Trump had COVID. On Saturday, it was touch and go. And on Sunday, he was in a limousine driving around the hospital waving to people. Monday, he was back to work. He said he had been given a therapeutic. He was now immune to COVID. Doesn't know how long. Could be a week, could be a month, could be forever. But he's now immune thanks to a therapeutic. Didn't know what it was called. Wasn't given that to Herman Cain, the senator, the black senator that died a few weeks earlier from COVID. Harold Cain, whatever his name. I don't remember. But you guys believe that this person now has COVID sauce in their body. They are a COVID sauce producer, right? When they cough, little light lime green clouds of germs with little red speckles in them fly out of their mouth. And if there's no circulating air, that cloud will just float in the air waiting for somebody to come walking through. Do. And when they do, they breathe in and the COVID goes in their nose and now they become sick. If the air happens to be circulating in the room, the sneeze can go as far as 60 feet. You could be eating on that side of the restaurant. Somebody coughs or sneezes. The air circulates it around. So while you're taking your bite, because you take your mask off to take your bite and then put your mask on real quick. In that split second, the COVID could get in there. Because again, flu, COVID, germs, these are some of the most intelligent beings on the planet. We don't talk about it, right? But think about it. These are self-replicating, invisible things, invisible germs, self-replicating. I mean, they just reproduce. Self-replicate who start off inside our 98.6 degree bodies. And it's not like cold and flu season is during the summer. As a matter of fact, when it started to get really warm during the first COVID, suddenly the George Floyd situation happens and keeps us occupied for the summer months. And then once it starts getting cold again, now COVID's come back. But these really intelligent germs can exit your 98.6 degree body. And then again, cold and flu season, it's much colder, 50 degrees, 40 degrees, 30 degrees. If you if you cough here, everything's okay. Right? This is safe. If you cough here, oh motherfucker, you are a toxic, COVID sauce producing machine. Here it's okay, everybody's safe. Here it's a genocide. Here you just coughed in your crowbow and everything's caught. Here it's a pandemic, right? If the person happens to cough on their hand, now they have self-replicating, super intelligent COVID on their hand. And if they touch the tabletop, the 50-degree tabletop, they touch the 50-degree, 40-degree door handle. If you're in the hospital or in a doctor's office, they keep it cold in there. That guy touches the pen or anything like that. His hand brushes against the wall. Just brushes against the wall. COVID sauce, invisible COVID sauce, mind you, is now on whatever he touched. 98 degrees, 50 degrees, no problem. It sets up a little base camp where, again, it's self-replicating and it's just waiting. And when somebody else comes and touches that thing, touches the doorknob, touches the pen, touches the wall that your hand brushed against, now they have self-replicating COVID on them. The COVID sees them, grabs a hold of their hand. Now it's on their hand. And of course, if they go wash their hand, it goes down the drain. But if they happen to touch their face, They pick their nose like we all do when no one's looking. The COVID germs jump off their finger, run up in their mouth and nose and get them sick. Of course, unless you have a strong immune system. Now, if I ask you guys what your immune system is, you don't know. Point to your immune system. You don't fucking know. If you have a strong immune system, it's like a bunch of little ninjas sitting at the doorways, just waiting for those COVID germs to come in so they can pow them. And you can strengthen, you can give steroids to your immune system so they can really pow by injecting yourself with a dead version of the thing you're trying to avoid, apparently. Totally makes sense. And this is something that you guys all fucking believe, right? All of you. All of you believe that that's how sickness happens. That's how, we pass on, that germs exist. You've never really given it that much thought. You've never thought about how intelligent these germs have to be. But you all believe that germs exist, and that's how we spread them to each other. Invisible sauce. So that takes us back to Hai Shaline, who was at a no mask rally yelling, no mask, blah, blah, blah. So there had to be all sorts of COVID sauce clouds and particles just all over, infecting everyone at that mask, right? Or at that rally, because none of them had on masks, and masks work. Well, Hai Shaline, Shaulain, that's it. Shaulain. Hai Shaline was arrested at the rally and taken to the police station, where 2 days later, he was taken to hospital with, unbeknownst to him and everyone else, super COVID, dun, 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 because 7 days later, somehow he was allowed access to a phone or a computer or something, because he released a statement saying, I'm too sick to talk or respond. However, with the right medicine and prayer, I should have this licked in 2 to 3 weeks. However, if I die, it's because the police poisoned me. That's why the police poisoned me. He said the police poisoned me. Next day, he's dead. He was totally fine, was at the COVID rally, the no mask rally, was arrested, 2 days later taken to the hospital, 8 days later he was dead. Do you know anybody that got 8-day COVID and killed him? Anybody you know got the 8-day COVID? No. But the head, the biggest thorn in the side of the Israelis, the biggest anti-mask protester, the biggest not listener in the world in Israel, he got it and he died 8 days later. No, 10 days later, sorry. No. Yeah. 2 days later, 8 days later, he was dead. Yeah. He was arrested and 10 days later, he's dead. Now, nobody else from that rally checked themselves into the hospital and died 8 days later from super COVID, 10 days later from super COVID. It's not like he could have gotten super COVID from the jail, the cold, sterile environment where I would assume all of the fucking police officers had been well vaccinated, right? Belch. Excuse me. So you're like, okay, I guess that's a believable story, I guess. Of course, after the fact, again, nobody died, nobody else dies, nobody else gets super COVID, and nobody is demanding an investigation. This man literally said the police poisoned him. He died of something that nobody else seems to die from in such a short period of time. And yet none of his no mask friends, none of his family, nobody was demanding an investigation. Even more amazing, and this is sort of a theme that you'll see whenever the Jays are involved, is that this number one thorn in the side, biggest protester in Israel, blah, 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 had zero social media footprint. Where are all the stories about this guy being a problem? Where are all of his Facebook and Instagram and all these other things, where he can disseminate information to people and show what's at? Where is it? It's 2022 or something. You're telling me this guy is the number one protester and he has no presence anywhere? There's no proof of his existence anywhere? But that's what you see. I mean, the goofy guy, Thomas Matthew Crooks, the guy that supposedly shot Trump, 20-year-old guy, zero social media footprint. The only evidence that he existed prior to that is that, well, there's some videos, is that he donated $15 to the Democratic side of things in 2015. Or no, he donated $15 to the Republican side of things in 2015. Otherwise, that 20-year-old had zero social media footprint at all. And the Trump shooting is one of the fakest false flags they've ever given us. And there are so many aspects of it that I can point to, but there's only one thing I really want to focus on. And it's something that I would imagine not just the non-believers, but the believers would actually sort of question as well. Trump claimed there were tens of thousands of people at the rally that day. In the footage that they've given us, you can see multiple people with cell phones. And it's 2024, where lots of people walk around with 2 cell phones. They got the rigs attached to their chest. They got the handheld thing. They got all kinds of things. This is the Trump Republican. This is a fucking Trump rally. Where are all of the live feeds and cell phone videos showing every single angle of that Trump shooting? It's 2024 at the time. Shouldn't the internet have been inundated with multiple cell phone videos and live feeds showing every single angle you can imagine of that shooting? I know NCIS and the bullshit shows my wife watches, some of them are from the early, mid-2000s. Back then they used to, they make the shows where they talk about how, if there's a shooting or something at a big place, based on security cameras and cell phone videos with all the people taking pictures and videos. This back all the way back then, early 2000 or late 2000s, early 2000 teens, that they could basically create a 3D model by taking all the different pictures and shit posted all over the web and putting that together. This is a Trump rally. And yet, how many cell phone videos have you seen from that day? Did they shut the comments down again? You guys don't think that Israel will lie to us. You guys don't know about the Munt-Smith Act, which is legislation the U.S. government passed that says the U.S. government is allowed to use fake news, false propaganda against the people. Why would the government need to pass that legislation to protect itself? How did you know we were capable of suing the government and shit? For false flag? Well, we would be able to if not for the Munt-Smith Act. Munt-Smith. Israel will lie. They will make up people. There was another story in early 2010. This is another example of how Israel lies. The claim was that two Palestinian militants just went to a gas station and opened fire, killing 4 people. What you'll see with Israeli narratives is that most of the time, it's enough people that there could have been a car crash. There could have been, some sort of accident. There might even been, like with this story, it's 4 people, 2 girls under 25, one middle-aged person, and then 1 elderly person. So you could have an elderly person who is on life support or, at the end of their road that the system says, can we use you, can we unplug your relative who's about to die anyway? Can we unplug them and they'll be modded for, of course they're going to take it. So let's say there's a car crash between the 2 girls and then the middle-aged person. And then they also pull the plug on an old person. Well, now you have your 4 people. The 2 girls that were under 25 apparently had their funeral and were buried in the ground within 2 hours of being shot. And you know this because the rampage, which is a something that the Israeli settlers do, it's called a rampage. And basically, settlers just form a long line, and as they walk, they light fires, they break things, they beat people up. It's a rampage, and it's one of their oldest customs. This is what they do. It's called a rampage. The rampage, they said, waited until the girls were already in the ground, and then they started the rampage. Do you believe that 2 people can be shot, have a funeral, and be put in the ground within 2 hours? Do you actually believe that shit? I'd be responding to comments, but they shut my comments down again. Why do they always shut my comments down? Why do they not want us to be able to communicate with each other? They don't want me to be able to answer what you guys are saying? Isn't that strange how that works? How many other people do you know that happens to? You're watching their live feed. It's going really well. 50-some people. And then the comments shut off. They can't see what's being said to them. Basically, I'm showing you multiple examples. There's other examples. The synagogue shooting in 2018. Robert Bowers Jr., who nobody's ever wanted to interview or anything like that since it happened. Robert Bowers Jr. is another guy who appears in January 2018 on a social media platform called Gob, which is supposedly a white supremacist platform like Facebook. So you would think the FBI would probably monitor it pretty significantly if it's known to be this white supremacist forum, whatever. Violence, Robert Bowers Jr. appears in January of 2018 talking about how mad he is at the Jays. And he starts leaving multiple posts up until April or whenever he does this bullshit, supposedly. Where at one point he apparently bought some pistols. He shows a picture of the pistols, and he's like, I'm going to do something about this someday. And it's just this goofy buildup up until the day where he posts a picture of the pistol, and he says, all right, I'm going to do something about this right now. Again, too bad nobody was monitoring that. But this guy who is a trucker, who lives in a transient hotel, nobody's ever seen him before. His landlord says how great he is because he doesn't have any complaints or anything like that. And every month, his rent is paid in cash in an envelope that just appears. It just appears. He doesn't know where it comes from. He doesn't even remember actually ever seeing Robert Bowers Jr., because he's a trucker. He ends up going to this synagogue in Philadelphia where it was an old synagogue, and they happen to want to do a complete renewal, a complete refurbishment of this synagogue, but they didn't want to pay for it. He happens to go on a Sunday, mind you, because they don't do Sunday church. They do Saturday church. But he went on Sunday because he was going to go cause as much terror and pain as he could. So he goes to this synagogue on the wrong day, and he shoots like 13 people or something like that. I think it's 13. 13. Where the median age, the medium age, the mean age, the average age is like 65. But it's only that low because there's two retarded guys whose parents had just recently died and were now a ward of the state. So they were now the state's problem to deal with. And they were like, 59 and 60 or something, like 59 and 61 or something like that. And they were the ones that brought the average way down. Because otherwise, the average age of the people shot would have been like 75, right? So this guy who wants to cause all this problems and all this terror goes to the synagogue on the wrong day and only shoots old people. A bunch of people who, if they were all on life support systems, and let's say there was a car crash, 4 of them were involved in a car crash, 2 of them were the retarded guys that they actually wanted to get rid of. And then, in all of the area around them, they just grabbed multiple people who were at the end of their road on life support and said, hey, we're going to make martyrs out of these people. And so the first responder said it looked like the first 6 people were all just laid down on the ground in a row and then were shot. Or, like somebody dragged them there, placed them there. But so this guy goes and he does all this shooting. Now, unlike any other shooting situation or anything else that's like this, the cameras for some reason aren't allowed anywhere near it. News isn't allowed anywhere near it. So the only footage you get to see is like static cameras just sort of sitting there, and every once in a while maybe some troops will go marching by it. Or you'll hear what appears to be firecrackers off in the distance going off. That's about it. Turns out the police show up. They end up having a shootout with the guy. I think one of them gets shot, and he gets shot in the leg. He's then taken, and while he's taken, he's yelling F the Jays and all these horrible things he's supposedly yelling the entire time he's arrested, where he's then taken to the hospital so they can deal with his wounds. The entire time he's at the hospital, and then straight to the court, where again, he's just yelling all sorts of obscenities, and none of it is filmed. None of it is filmed. He's immediately given all of the life sentences and locked away for good, and nobody wants to talk to him. No, we still talk about Charlie Manson. We still talk about fucking Jack the Ripper and shit. 1880s guy who killed like 3 people or some shit. We still talk about these guys. Still talk about Dahmer. Still talk about all that. But the guy who did this shooting, we don't want to know anything about him. We don't want to talk to him. And so that was on Sunday. On Monday, half of the people are buried. On Tuesday, the other half are buried. And then the synagogue, of course, because it's such bad, it gets knocked down and they rebuild the synagogue, all paid for by tax dollars, because it was such a tragic event that took place there. And then 6 months later to the day, all the way out in California, a guy called John T. Ernest decides he's going to attack a synagogue. He shows up, kicks in the door. He's got a AR style rifle. He starts shooting. This narrative is just stupid. He goes to shoot the rabbi, but a woman jumps in front of him and she gets killed. And then when he goes to shoot again, the gun jams, and somebody that was in the audience that had a gun starts shooting at him, so he runs away. Oh no, he goes to shoot the rabbi. The rabbi grabs the gun handle and it blows his finger off. His middle finger gets blown off. He gets shot at point blank range by an AR style rifle, and it doesn't take his whole hand off, just a finger. And so he ends up escaping, where he then drives a few miles away, calls the police on himself, pulls over the car, and gets himself arrested. Again, never to be heard from again. Later on that day, the rabbi interviewed, and he's got his hand all bandaged up, so apparently he's had all the surgeries and everything he needs. He's sitting there raising his "we won't be afraid," showing his, like he didn't get a local in his arm that make his arm all wobbly. Like what happens when you get surgery. Right? It's these narratives that we're given are the most clearly manufactured bullshit narratives ever. They're just so stupid. And it's them who controls the whole narrative. Because, I can't be the only one that finds holes in these stories. Are we to believe that proper, well-paid reporters and shit like that, they investigators and all that, given more information than I have, they don't see all these fucking weird holes in the story? And when you realize that, like, again, no proper investigations are done. The second synagogue shooting, they interviewed a little girl the next day who was supposedly hit by shrapnel, whatever the fuck that means. And they go, "Where'd you get hit, sweetie?" And she's like, "In my face and in my leg." And they're like, "Where?" And she's like, "Oh, well, it must have healed." And then she gives this long speech about how, and the Jewish people are the most persecuted people. Like she's clearly reading a rehearsed speech. But see, this is where you guys need to watch a movie called Hollywoodism. It's on YouTube. I'll leave a link to it in the description of this when I'm done. And it was made in 1998 by the Jays. This is why this movie is so much more important than Loose Change or Obama Deception or Zeitgeist or anything like that. Because most of that shit's made by the Jays, no doubt, but they don't outwardly, it's not like an outward expression of them. You have to, I remember when Zeitgeist 4 came out a few years ago. And I was super excited. You know, I couldn't wait to watch. I was like, man, the Zeitgeist guys made another movie. Awesome. I can't wait. And I went to watch it. And within about 10 minutes, I shut it off. Because I realized that every single person presenting me with information in that video was a J. Sorry, you can call it whatever you want. When the narrative is being given to me by people who believe themselves to be born superior to me, by people who refer to me as a goyim, I don't give a shit what they say. It's not true. And actually that thing caused me to look at everything differently. That experience. You know, I went back and watched A Rich Man's Trick again. I thought A Rich Man's Trick was amazing. Nah. Rich Man's Trick supports Israel. Talk about Israel's right to defend itself and blah, blah, blah. Gone. Sorry. Gone. And so, Hollywoodism, if I made Hollywoodism and I hired people of color to say everything in that movie, line for line, other than the parts that says we, it says them instead. Right? They or them or something. If I made that movie, everybody, it would get panned. It would get called, you know, anti-Semitic tropes and how dare somebody make such an offensive movie and all this other bullshit. Because this movie not only outlines, but brags about how the Jays not just, you know, made Hollywood, controlled Hollywood with an iron fist, and used Hollywood to over the years completely make America into their version of America. They've manipulated how we think, how we see things, how we vote, everything through Hollywood. It's the greatest weapon they've ever created. And again, if I say that the Jays absolutely do have and always will control Hollywood until we do something about it, and that they use that shit to push their ideologies on us, that makes me a bad guy. However, Hollywoodism is the movie they made, starring them, produced by them, filmed, everything is them, where they say the exact same things and they brag about it. And they tell you the truth about how you view everything. When you understand that, like, look, I live with 3 other people, my wife and my 2 kids. And I'm not arrogant, foolish enough to think I know 100% of what goes on in my house. 100% of what each of those 4 people or 3 people think. The only shit I know for certain is what I do and what I experience in my everyday life. Everything else is told to me in one fashion or another. Everything else is given to me in one fashion or another. So when you understand that includes your history, you know, your current events, your voting, your every fucking thing is given to you. When you understand that all of politics, the show that you see of politics, they give it to you. You know, Congress goes on recess. How many of you have recess at work? You work for 3 weeks and then you have another 3-4 weeks off of recess. What they're doing is writing, creating, and practicing the narrative. So they do their little play for 3 weeks. Then they close down and they practice what the next upcoming one is. 3-4 weeks off, and then they come back, and now they have the new one. That's literally how it all works. And it also mimics how government works. Anybody wondering why I'm not commenting on the comments, it's because somebody stopped my comments from coming through. Strangely enough, I don't know why, I don't know how, I don't know who, I don't know what. How are my comments being fucked with time and time again? Who's shutting it off? Do you know why they do that? Because if I'm not answering questions, if I'm not answering your questions, especially if you're not just a jackass, you're actually asking legit questions, and I'm just ignoring it, you feel slighted. Fuck this guy. He's not even going to answer my fucking questions. What the fuck? Blah, blah, blah. Doing it on this. How many other people do you know that happens? They do a live feed, and then suddenly at some point, once the feed really gets going well, suddenly the comments stop coming through. Make it make sense another way. Time and time again. Must be my modem, huh? Must be my internet connection here in the middle of the city surrounded by fucking towers and shit. Must be that. Understand, everything I talk about is all stuff you can go look up. I encourage you to look it up. I encourage you to find holes in anything I'm saying and debunk me. Make me look bad. Please. Please. Not sure what I just said that lost me a like, but okay. Make it make sense, guys. It's all I ever want anybody to do is make it make sense. That's all I'm doing. I'm taking the narrative that I'm given that doesn't make much sense and trying to make sense out of it. I'm trying to understand what you guys all believe, why you guys all still believe the narrative you're given. They haven't earned that. If anything, they've earned that you question things. As soon as you start stumbling into the whole Tartaria thing, that should change it. That should be the pebbles that get the avalanche going. Because if you start to understand this concept of resets, which is the only way our history actually makes sense. Well, it's the only way our current narrative actually makes sense. Because, when you look at the story of how all the biggest buildings were built and pyramids and churches and castles and star forts and the Thames Tunnel and, all this other shit. The narrative you're given just don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. Other than we're being lied to. Something else happened. There was some sort of reset. And everything that we're told that happened before said reset is just bullshit. It's chat GPT bullshit. And everything that happened afterward is manufactured bullshit because it doesn't tell you about the reset. It seems pretty, like I'm confident in saying 100% that I believe a reset of some sort happened. That the narrative we're given is 100% bullshit. The whole slavery narrative, the whole Native American genocide narrative, all of it, it's all bullshit. And it's all just ways for them to control us, control our thinking. The one of their main weapons is telling people they're depressed. Everybody's walking around on all sorts of crazy medications and shit. Psycho brown acid type medications. Like, you got to take it. You have to take this for 3 to 4 weeks, And it's not, it might be a little unpleasant until your body gets used to it and the chemicals regulate in your body. Then you should feel a lot better. However, if you happen to want to kill yourself even more, well, then just take this second. Don't stop taking that. Don't stop taking that thing that makes you want to do. No. Here, we're going to give you some either more of it or less of it, or we'll give you something else on top of it. It's because you're so depressed. You're so depressed. You're so depressed. You know what causes that depression? Anger. You're not depressed, you're pissed. You're not allowed to be pissed. In our society, you're not allowed to be like, God damn it, black people, stop running from the fucking cops. They want to shoot you. Stop running from them and giving them the fucking reason. You want to wear the thug uniform, then do the little fucking 30 days in jail like a thug. Otherwise, stop it. They're going to shoot you. But you're not allowed to say that. No. You're not allowed to say that. As a person of color, what's been done to black people, I hate it more than I can put into words. When you look at hip hop and rap and just the idea of a black community, black unemployment, that's some racist bullshit. Why would black unemployment be any different than unemployment? Well, the black and Mexican and unemployment is... It's just racist bullshit. And when you look at what black people have been tricked into believing it means to be black, who do you think was in charge of that shit? Who do you think was in charge of all of the videos, music videos, and just the music itself? You think that the only music that black people were capable of creating in the last 20, 30 years is bitches, niggas, fucking hoes, niggas, bitches, drugs, bitches, kill niggas, bitches? That's it? No black people ever had something important to say? And the thing is, they did that in one fell swoop. Because black music was actually starting to change. It was starting to be more socially conscious. Telling black people to learn their history, learn their roots and stuff like that. And the Jays at the top, the Jimmy Iovine's, the Jerry Hellers, they were like, oh no, we can't have that. Let's give them niggas with attitudes. The greatest boy band we ever created. Because Niggas with Attitudes is a boy band. NWA. Album drops on 8/8/88. There's no significance there, though. Who really thinks Jamatra? I think that's how you say it. I don't even care. The number thing? 8/8/88, the infinity sign over and over again? Yep, that was just a coincidence, I'm sure. And then suddenly these idiot black guys with fucking AR style rifles are allowed to ride around LA. And that's all broadcast to the fucking kids on Yo MTV Raps when they get home from school. You don't think that was all just a plan? Instantly, Fresh Prince and all that music about, learn yourself, be yourself, that all went out the window. And now everybody's got to be a thug, got to be a gangster. It's all manufactured. It's all manufactured, man. Look at all these fucking idiots, that the only black guys that are allowed to make it in today's world. They are the worst of the worst. I don't even know these new rappers anymore because I just can't stand it. The music sucks. The rap sucks. You got guys like Eminem that are actually putting shit out. Like, Eminem is amazing. But Eminem talks about how I personally think Revival is one of the greatest albums ever created, one of the greatest pieces of art ever created. And that's woke Eminem, as he says. I hate that term, woke. Again, don't you think it's convenient that we identify as something improper? We're not awake, we're woke. Do you realize how stupid they have you if you walk around saying woke? I'm woke. Anybody that's above you in either age or position is going to be like, oh, well, write that guy off, woke. Come on, don't be stupid. That's why saying things correctly and spelling things correctly and getting your yours right and all that, yours and theirs and twos, you might not think it's important, but someone like me will definitely use that as a reason to write you off. What you say probably doesn't have as much intelligence behind it as you might want it to if you can't get your yours right. It's all manufactured, man. In the 80s, white music had gotten to be like, it was rock and roll and go get drunk and bang some chicks and, have some fun. That's what rock music was about. In one fell swoop, it went from that to now I want to shoot heroin and kill myself. Grunge. Meh. They did that to us. The whole thing about the redneck, just as much as white people or as black people have been pigeonholed and corralled into these horrible stereotypes, they did the same thing with white people. Do you guys know that hillbilly bluegrass music, when it initially became big, it was all out of the South. And back in these days, for some reason, they used to have radio stations that could broadcast across the country. Not sure why we don't have that anymore, but back then apparently we did. And anybody that wanted to get in on this bluegrass and make some real money, they would come down from New York. They were these classically trained musicians, and they would come down from New York and all these other places. And they would say, okay, well, we want to play this music. We're good. We're a great, we're a great band or whatever. And the powers that be would say, okay, well, you got to put on some overalls, mess up your hair, put some black stuff on your teeth. We're going to call you the Bunky Bottom Boys. And now you're going to be some hillbillies from the hills. If you're going to play the music, you got to be the part. They created the redneck. Go look at old fucking footage of Southern people. They ain't like Dickle, geez, me and Sandra Lee, we've gone down to the creek. We're going to go jump in the cement pond and catch us some crawfish so we can... They don't talk like that. Just like there's this documentary from Ellis, no, from what the fuck? What's the prison out in New York? Not Sing Sing. Whatever. There's this documentary from like the early 80s out of that prison. God, what the fuck? Rikers Island, out of Rikers. And they interview a bunch of people. If you're not looking at it, other than the occasional black guy that talks like this, man, my brother, there's those, the occasional. But if you don't watch it, you don't know if you're hearing from white guys or black guys. Everybody sounds the same. Nobody's talking about, in these streets, me and my brother and my mother, we be trying to eat, and we got to stay strong in these streets, and nobody talks like that. I got a hole in the earth. There's a hole in my roof so my hair can grow. I got my hair growing out in the earth. You over there, come here, come her. Don't stir at me. Nobody talked like that. I remember when that shit happened. I'm old enough to remember that one. You know, suddenly Murphy Lee, not Nelly, Murphy Lee does that verse on Batter Up or whatever song it was. I got an old school cutlass with a hole in the earth. TVs are where wood grains of stir. And now suddenly everybody talks like that? Nelly didn't talk like that. Somehow that was the most popular verse. And now everybody talks like that in the South. They made a whole generation of people unhireable. Those people aren't going to get hired if they go anywhere or try to get any sort of higher position other than working at McDonald's or KFC or some shit. Why do you think they did that to us? Back to white people. One of the longest running shows, like variety shows, TV shows in general of all time, is Hee Haw. Hee Haw. That's a bunch of Jays dressing up and acting like the most idiot white people you can possibly find. They all don't be talking like this, and skaters on the roof, and skater get down off that there roof, and those guys don't talk like that. Those guys are all Jays. The majority of them are Jays. They created the whole narrative. And then in the 90s, when they were doing the same thing with rap music and with rock music, they were also building up country music. Now you've got country music, you know, I got my big old beat up truck. It's got hip hop influences. They talk about driving around and drinking and, you know, fucking bitches, and it's rap, it's ignorant fucking, you know, it's nigga music. And because nigga doesn't fucking mean black people, it means ignorant, it applies. They, you know, nothing is heard on the radio without it being approved by them. DJ, radio VJs and shit, radio disc jockeys, they don't have that power anymore. You can't just sneak them your CD and be like, hey, can you play this? They can't. They don't even have control over what gets played. They get a set list and they get given, it's given to them. They literally have no control over any of it anymore. They're just the voice that's in between the songs. There's no payola and shit, that doesn't exist. I got my big old beat up truck. You know what I want to know? How come none of the superstars, or at least not very many celebrities, athletes, government officials, anything like, how come none of them die from fentanyl? The last one I can remember is that J kid. You know, what's his name? The rapper. How come they're not dying left and right from fentanyl overdoses? Accidental fentanyl overdoses. Don't you think that's strange? Don't you think the people in the drugs, sex, and rock and roll lifestyle would be much more susceptible to that shit? Don't you think there'd be like all these rock stars that went off and, you know, died from fucking... Wouldn't that be happening left and right? And why is Anthony Kiedis still allowed to be famous and not like totally fucking exposed? This 50-something-year-old guy keeps dating 18-year-old girls less than sometimes. He's got a history of violating girls. As a matter of fact, when he was like 12, Cher raped him. How come Cher isn't in trouble? How come Cher gets literally no flack for that? It's pretty well known. When Anthony Kiedis was 12, 13 years old, she raped him. You could say she had sex with him, but that's a child. When an adult is having sex with a child, that's rape. Why isn't this, like, why aren't these things more prominent? How isn't Cher exposed as being that? And then lots of other stories would clearly come out too. And we just shun this bitch. Instead, she's this gay icon for some reason. If I was Cher, I'd be pretty upset that so many guys think like they can pull off my look. It's not that they think you're just this epitome of woman, blah, 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 that flat-chested broad. No, you look like a dude. So they can pull that look off pretty well. Why aren't we like louder about this shit? I know, again, I'm not answering any, I can't see any of your comments, so I don't know what you're saying. But I challenge you guys to answer these questions. Let me see if I can fix it. Nope, now the comments disappear. That's what happened last time. Used to fix it. It used to be if the comments got stuck and I, shut the phone off and turn it back on, or shut the screen off and turn it back on, it would fix the comments, but doesn't seem to happen anymore. Gee, I wonder why. Ever since the latest update I was forced to get that seemingly shut my page down a lot, my viewership down a lot. And it just so happened to be a couple days after Trump took office, or even maybe that day. Sure, it's just another quinky-dink, just like it was in 2016. I remember that shit well. The day Trump took over, things got real different. I was allowed to have lots of big numbers in Facebook way back then. And then it just slowly started to go down. And then in 2020, when my New Year's resolution, which is stupid, was that I was no longer going to be distracted by things like chemtrails and all these other things that so many other people are talking about and should be talking about. I don't want to talk about the tentacles of the monster anymore. I want to cut off the head. And the head of the monster is Israel. Israel is just the invisible house. It's just the borders. It's just the name given to the place. Cutting off the J's. And at the time I said I want to cut off the J's in Israel and use that money to hunt and kill pedophiles here in the States. I know my feed was immediately compromised for saying that. Suddenly I had all these new trolls. Suddenly I had all this interference. They're calling the police and do all these crazy shit start happening again, because it did start happening. It's like it was the second time that happened, the second round of that shit happening. And it was because I said I was going to focus on Israel. And I still am. And I challenge any of you to prove me wrong about any fucking thing I've said today. It's a pretty empowering feeling that so many people come talking shit, but can't actually talk shit about what I'm saying. They're basically all saying, yeah, you're right about what you're saying, but I don't like your face. I don't like your haircut. You smoke. I don't like that you're smoking. Man. They use it as their way out. And I don't blame you. You're this feed, like multiple people said today, something about this is just attractive to them. It's because truth is attractive. It doesn't matter what you're fucking. You could be a dumb J. If you're a good, like if you're struggling with that and shit, if you believe in equality for all, and that we should be working together to make our lives the best lives we can make, then I'm going to make sense to you, whether your fucking brainwashed cult said so or not. Anyway, go get your free download. Link will be in the description, www.the-bilderberg, BILDERBERG-group.com. It's music. It's music about this kind of shit, not niggas, bitches, and hoes. If you're sick of that shit like I am, I got sick of it, so I made my own. It's not like anything you've heard before. So go check it out. I'm also going to leave a link to Hollywoodism because anything. I mean, before you go get the fucking download, go watch this movie. This movie will explain everything to you. They are telling on themselves. Go watch this movie, and then I'm going to put a link. I'll put the Samson Option. That's our song, the Samson Option. That's to our Facebook page. Go like our Facebook page. Go share the shit. Do something. What are you waiting until it's too late? You waiting until those train doors close and you're like, shit, I should have been helping that guy. At least he was saying the shit. If there's, share this with as many people as you can that will tell me what I'm wrong about. There are a lot of people out there looking for someone like me. Somebody actually saying the truth. Somebody saying the things that a lot of you are probably too scared to say, but you think them. Well, I'm going to say it. I'm going to make songs about it. So go check it out. Everyone have yourself a wonderful day. And you pedophiles, you kill yourself.